Welcome to In the Know with Steph and Joe. In the Know with Steph and Joe, brought to you through the financial support of our good friends over at Steph's Bookkeeping and Restoration One of Cary. Today, the title says transitioning into new roles, but I think that means on the business side of things. It was a weird green room conversation, everybody. Welcome in, Steph. No, Joe.
Well, Joe is off gallivanting and playing golf. You know, 'tis the season.
And with his creeper stash.
Yeah, that stash was something special, I tell you.
That's why I was like, award for the creepy guy you'd meet at a truck stop goes to.
So that's why I get two microphones today.
Yeah, that's it. You're it.
But yeah, so obviously, as we talked in the green room, today is going to be a slightly shorter show than normal because, as we all know, things get crazy with being small business owner, a parent, a spouse, or whatever you are. So I have to leave to go pick up Eli since my husband keeps blowing up engines in his car. So
no, in the minute your house, I think you were right saying parent. I love you, Rich. Just kidding.
Hi, Derek.
Hey, Derek's in.
So I just kind of wanted so we figured, Joe and I, when we were talking about this topic, it would be kind of how it is, because last show we did being a one-person show to being a team, and how that affects things, and how there's dynamics, the expectations, you not doing all of the work now, and then you trusting somebody else with your baby, and all these things. And then now, what do you do?
Not Steph's. We're talking about Joe's mustache. It was awesome.
So now that you've, hired a team or started hiring a team, and before your role was salesperson, working in the trenches, customer service, collections, marketing, branding, you had so many different hats. And then as your team gets bigger, I feel like people start to go into well, now what do I do thing? And I kind of felt that a little bit when I brought my team in. I felt like, okay, well, this is good, and they're doing all this stuff. And then now I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? Now I'm not doing the work. So now what am I doing? So then I had to really, now my new role is being the face of the company and sales. I have to keep filling that hopper and keep putting those widgets out for them to keep organizing them.
And that's so I've made the transition recently, and I now have a super awesome assistant, which I've never had before. So for the past few years, I've been doing my work and everybody else's work as I was building something, and now I left that, and now I'm apologizing to Kim because I'm like, oh man. She goes, no, this is what I do.
She's like, it's my time to shine.
Right.
Stop trying to take my cheese and just let me do it.
Right. And I'm just like, I feel no, you should be up, to your point. And she's like, you should be doing this, and this. Now go, and I'm like, okay. It is a weird transition, and especially if you're an entrepreneur and you're in your own business, from working in your business to working on your business, a hard transition.
Right. I feel like I don't we could sit in.
Oh my gosh, what happened?
Oh, the music.
Oh yeah, that was just a quick commercial that's coming on. Nice.
But I just feel like I don't know, what. I don't know if you should have put that in your business plan when you start getting to that point where you're if you open your business with the intent to grow it, to the intent to have a team and all of these things, do you put that in the business plan and start okay, when I have employee 1, I'm going to take these responsibilities off my plate. They're going to have that. And then now I'm going to add this new thing and then move on. And I just don't know how somebody would build that in, or if anybody has built that in. I'm curious.
Yeah, I never.
Or you just wing it.
I never have, because I don't know if you would fully understand what, because you're at that one-man show or one-woman show at that point. You've been spending all your time working in your business because you were everything. You were chief cook, chef, cook, bottle washer, right? All that, whatever, however the hell they say that thing,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And that was what you did, and it's hard. Derek
Mm.
says, I think you put that in when you decide you're going to hire an employee, not long before.
Yeah, I mean, like, because like I know, for example, like as we're getting sales leads in and things like that, I know who's gonna take what on my team as for the new client. I know who I can give little special projects to and who I can't.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel like but then I feel like if I give up too much and because I'm like a hoarder, and I feel like if I give up too much, then like I don't want to be that person. Because one of my clients told me when I told them I hired my first employee, they're like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna have to start looking for a new bookkeeper." And I'm like, "Why?" And they're like, "Because once you start hiring people, you get lazy." He's like, "It happens to so many business owners; they get lazy because they don't want to go back in the trenches once they've tasted that life out of the trenches."
And did you get lazy? Have you gotten lazy?
I don't know if I've gotten lazy, but I would say that there have been times where I've taken advantage of the downtime, like gone to the grocery store in the middle of the day when I usually would reserve that for like a Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also, I guess, the perk of being a business owner, because when I was doing it by myself, I would go to the grocery store sometimes in the middle of the week, but then I'd work on Saturday.
Right.
But now there's just not work for me to do on Saturday in its place.
Yeah.
So I don't think I've gotten lazy. I think I've tried to come up with new strategies and things for
my
different
team. Focus.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like when we've had ebbs and flows, we've had employees come in, we've had employees go out, and so I'm always the backup and I have to pick up the slack. So I don't think I've been 100% removed from the trenches.
How long did it take you to make that transition? So you hired the employee, as Derek said. You probably put that in not too long before you hire an employee. So how long did it take you to make that transition, or are you still making it?
I think when I started, I guess, accepting the transition was probably like a few months after my first round of employees was hired, and I realized like, okay, I got a solid base here. They're handling this, and now I can go and start doing these other things, because I was a little hesitant, because like, what if I hired wrong, or what if this, or what if that, and then we grow, and then now I can't take on that capacity of work by myself.
Yeah.
So like that's always kind of been a fear in the back of my mind, that what happens if like I have a mass walkout and like my whole staff leaves me tomorrow. Like, can I do all of that work by myself again? And the answer is no.
Right. Yeah, because you're loaded now.
Like now with having 3 employees and them being busy full-time hours, like I don't know what to do with. Like I would be screwed. Hi, Mom.
Hey, Mom.
Like I don't know. Like I would be working morning, noon, and night. Like I would probably come to hate my business then after that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, or there's temp. There's you're brilliant enough. You'd figure it out. But yeah. Derek said, "Hey, I'll jump in and help. Just let me know."
Yeah, Derek only wants to come and work in my office because he likes the way it smells.
Don't come into the studio then. This time on Friday it's been a long day. So what are some of the things that you did to transition? I mean, did you make a list? Did you literally have to go, ooh, stop, don't do that, that's their job?
Yeah, I mean, because sometimes I catch myself doing it. Like if I see that I see that sometimes, like if they're falling behind in deliverables, I start pulling work off of them and start doing the work. Not so much anymore, but like early, like maybe like last year or whatever, I would do that. But then it get to a point where then they would have nothing to do the last week and a half of the month. So like that was not a good idea. Right. So don't recommend that. unless there's like a hard deadline that you have
Sure.
that's a problem. So like I would start getting nervous. I'm like, oh, there's too many open tasks. Like we gotta get these down. Like we should be done with all of these by
That's
now.
funny.
And then I would start doing them, and then they're like, oh, well, what do you want us to do now? And then they stare at you, and then you're like, oh shit.
There's some sharpen this pencil.
I'm like, oh, we gotta
Staple.
I'm like, oh, we gotta put new water bottle labels on the water bottles, so pull the old labels off and put new ones on. But I think
Look for some Post-it notes.
once some of my other business friends kind of helped me in that transition and letting me know it was okay, and then Rich and I sat down and really designed my new role, and then I had something to really put my focus in. Like, so if I'm marketing and doing sales, then now I was able to figure out different things. Like we've done mixers, we've done lunch and learns, we're going to do the golf outings, we're going to do charity events and all of these different kind of things that take up a lot of time.
Yeah, I just put up there. Derek says that stash is awesome, and then he says it does smell glorious. So now if somebody just tuned in, they'll think they were talking about his mustache. Sorry,
couldn't help yourself.
Couldn't help myself. I apologize. Maybe it does. I don't know.
Because like with you, because your position is kind of a lot newer, with you having Kim now as your right hand. Like, do you find yourself like going to grab like deals off of her desk and be like, oh, it's okay, I got these and you can do this or whatever, and she slaps your hand and tells you to get away from her desk?
Yeah. It's like, oh, what do you want me to do? Go get another deal. She says, oh, okay. So it's like, okay, which is weird to me, because I, like I said, for the last few years, I've been the one footing, most of the work, the heavy lifting,
right.
And that was just the situation that I was in. So I continually tell her, I'm like, don't be afraid to, slap me on the back of the bald head and say, go away, and also don't be afraid to say, oh, I need you to do this.
Right.
Because I'm a husband and I will think that you have it figured out, or you got it. So sometimes you just have to say, hey, I need you to do this. Put away the laundry.
Yeah. I guess I should be happy and thankful and grateful for the team that I have, because I was like, oh, we're going to go to this ribbon cutting. And so my whole office, we went to the ribbon cutting
cool.
It was for one of our clients. So, so obviously we have to go and support, because they would do the same for us. But I was like, oh, do you guys want to go grab like a little lunch and then go to the ribbon cutting and just kind of end the day a little early? It's been a pretty good week, whatever. And they're like, one of my employees was like, oh yeah, like that sounds good, we can do that, but can you do this thing first before we leave that I had asked you to do 2 days ago in my end of day email, just so it's ready for tomorrow for me to work on and whatever? Can you do that real quick before we leave? Like she didn't want to let me go and slack off for like the hour, because
that's hilarious.
It was I was bottlenecking her finishing her task. So I guess at a point you get in the way.
Yeah, and but you don't think you are, because you're like, let me help, and everybody's always excited. Ooh, I'm getting a new role, but the transition into that role sometimes is hard, slow, and I think you have to be willing to communicate. And like I told Kim, I said, hey, you've been working with this company for a long time, so I don't. I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. I'm going to step outside places where I'm not supposed to be stepping, because I don't know. I said, so you just don't be afraid to go, idiot.
Right.
And when an employee, when a business owner is making that transition, it's like, oh, I'm excited about this. And then they sometimes do lose sight of the hard work it takes and what needs to happen. But then also the expectations, right? So you have a level of expectation that you hold yourself to. And now you've transitioned to working on instead of in. And do you find yourself getting frustrated because your employees now don't perhaps hold the same level of brilliance as you do.
Well, actually, I have a solution for that because that was happening at the very, very beginning because I just didn't know how to manage that.
Yeah.
And so then I would, hey, Ted, I would take, so if they gave me, so how it works is they do all the work and then I do a double check on it and then it goes to client. And so when I was finding edits or issues or things like month over month on things, and I would mention it to them in past, like whatever, in conversation, but I would fix the problem. So then they never really got to see see it and touch it and fix it and memorize it themselves. So I was doing them such a huge disservice by doing that. And Rich was actually the one that told me that he ran into the same issue with being a general manager and having, 20 employees under him, that it was better for him to not fix it and for him to kick the work packet back to them, tell them what the issue was, and then have them fix it themselves.
Figure it out.
And then send it back to you for final. And so when I started doing that and kicking it back to them, and also when I gave them the whole file and not just part of the file, it made them more accountable and responsible for the deliverable. So before it was taking me, we'll say like 10 to 15 minutes to review a file. Now it takes me like 3 to 5 minutes to review a file. So I think that we figured out. I feel like I'm always getting in trouble as a business owner. I just feel like I'm always the problem. But yeah, so there is that. There is letting that go from like what you're doing at your skill set versus what an up and coming individual is doing at their skill set. But I feel like as long as they have passion and excitement behind the stuff and they take constructive criticisms well, I feel like they're going to be successful.
Yeah.
Because I think when the person doesn't take constructive criticisms well, they're never going to work out.
Yeah.
The person that's always got an answer before you finish your statement, like it's never going to work well. But I've seen situations where there's owners. So what about when if anybody out there that's listening is a dual owner business, where it's not your spouse, like where it's you and a friend or you and a colleague or you and whatever. What happens when it's time to make that transition and there's two owners? Like, who decides and how do you decide what those new roles will be for each individual owner? Like typically, like I've seen if there's two owners, one kind of takes like the back end office stuff and manages like customer service and things like that. And then the other manager is maybe more extroverted and field orientated. So they take more of the operations side of the business and they kind of divide that. But how do you determine who takes what? What if you both want the same new role?
That is a good question. And I'm not the right guy to do it because I'll be like, you do it. Right? Yeah, because that's just too hey, you do it. You go ahead. You do it. I'll keep working at this. Right. Because I want to make people happy. And so I don't know if I'm the right guy to ask that, but I think if you have a good business relationship and you're able to lay it out and say, okay, here's your skill set,
right?
Miss Applejacks, and here's mine, and your skill sets are going to fit better to do this and make that. What are your thoughts?
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's like a fair way to do it. You draw straws, you play rock, paper, scissors, whatever the case may be. But I've seen situations where as the owners transition into their new roles, it creates like a weird tension between them. And then it creates situations where like one owner feels like they're doing more work than the other owner, but it's based upon, it's not that they're doing more work, they're just doing different work.
And maybe that's where you define culture. I was talking with Adam Harville yesterday. Adam, of course, I've known for a long time, manages a banking center here in McHenry, and we talked a lot about culture. And I think if you understand that you have to create a great culture, your business, Steph, I'm able to see that as it's right down the hall, has a great culture. You do things that what I would consider normal business people don't do for their employees, and I think it's fantastic. That's a hard culture to walk away from. So if you've established your culture, then I think it's the pieces of your partnership. If you've got partners, will assume the right parts to maintain the culture. If that makes sense, what I just said.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that because I feel like it's like the same thing in a house. If mom and dad are fighting, then there's chaos with the kids, then there's chaos with the dogs, and it doesn't work.
Right.
So it's just like if the business partners are fighting, some people will take advantage of that situation and pit mom and dad against each other.
Well, and at the prior bank I was at, the three of the owners worked inside the bank every day, and I knew exactly who I needed to talk to get what. And then I would go, oh well, Doug said this.
Right. Well, that's why it works with Rich and I, because we made the decision that whoever manages and schedules the team, that's the only point of contact. Like Valerie, Melanie, and Christy don't really talk to Rich. It's very rare if they talk to Rich, and I know about it before they talk to him, because they report to me, and you don't want to create that environment. But I feel like even for employees, not just business owners transitioning into new roles, it applies to also employees when they transition into new roles. Like, because I've seen where you have an employee that is just like working in customer service or working, in a more entry level role, but they just have that charisma about them when it comes to dealing with clients, and they just would shine as a salesperson. Yeah. And then they get put into that new role, and then they go from being like a big fish in a little pond to being the little fish in a big pond, and it's a new territory. And I feel like they need a lot of encouragement to keep pushing them forward into that uncharted role.
Yeah, I agree.
But I feel like, but then also I feel like Melanie is kind of like, I guess I would say like my lead bookkeeper. She's been with me the longest. She knows my expectation. She knows everything.
She's the veteran on the team.
Right. So she knows everything about everything within our office. And so I know that pushing her into that role, she was like so nervous. Like she was so nervous. She's like, I don't know. And all these things. And I'm like,
and she's a relatively young person.
Yeah, she is a little young, but I'm like, I'm going to be your backup though.
Right.
And she's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, okay, let's say you're in a situation with another one of the employees and you're pulling rank and they aren't respecting that situation, then you come to me and I will back you. Like if I'm putting my stamp on you and I'm saying that if I'm not here, then you're the me, then they need to act and treat you accordingly.
Yeah.
And I will back you. And if you're wrong, then I will privately tell you you're wrong. I won't tell you in front of the team that you're wrong.
Yeah, we won't cut you down there. Right.
But so I just feel like it works for a lot of different things, or even when people completely switch industries. Like you went from having a coffee shop to being a mortgage lender. Yeah. I feel like that was probably a little different.
Yeah, I went from that to being a retail bank manager. I didn't even know what retail banking was, but I interviewed well.
Right.
And I showed up and I'm like, wait, I'm running the branch. Yeah, you manage retail banking. Well, I thought retail banking was like I went and talked to people about bank accounts like at Target or something. I thought I was going to be a sales role. Like, no. So I had to learn. I didn't even know what a DDA was. I didn't know any of it. And so I had to start by spending a lot of time with the tellers because I didn't know nothing. I knew absolutely nothing about banking. Here's what I knew. I gave my check to Alice and it went into the account. There you go.
Right? Yeah.
That's what I knew. And next thing I know, I'm, because I didn't know anything and I was curious and I busted my ass to learn. Within 6 months, I was a district manager for the company.
Well,
They're like, man, look at you work and you're getting great numbers. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell I was doing.
they're like, yep, yep.
And so yeah, so I didn't even know. So it was funny, and now I knew lending because of that. So then it was an easier transition there. But I was just like, man. But now in talking, now that I'm out of management for the moment, right? Life is good. I've got my business partners here. Nobody reports to me. I have to take care of myself. In talking with Adam yesterday, we're spitfiring ideas and things, and in back of my mind, I'm like, I'm glad I don't have to deal with that shit anymore.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot dealing with employees and coworkers, and then that whole ladder chain of people, and because I can't even tell you how many. Like, how many managers is too many managers? Because I tried to explain this to a former boss one time, and they weren't understanding, like what I was trying to say. Like, because you have your entry level employee, then you have the lead for that one employee. So one employee manages the one employee. Then you have the office manager who manages those employees. Then you have the general manager. Then you have the owner for a half a $500,000 business. Like, I feel like that's just too many layers.
Yeah, it is. Way too many.
And how do you make anybody successful in those roles? So I was always curious, like, how many managers is too many managers, and depending on the size of your business. Because I feel like once I get like 4 employees and I'm ready to hire my 5th, I think that's when I would have a full-on manager buffer between me and the team, and try and slowly transition myself out of being so accessible to the team and being more to the manager of the division or whatever, or that particular branch or whatever we're doing. But yeah, so I guess, like I said, today was going to be kind of a short show. We're only doing a half hour since I got to go pick up Eli. So I guess those are our thoughts on transitioning and roles, and I guess I fudged it up, and now I'm learning and making it better and making it right. But I think that's all part of being an owner, and that's what it's all part of that entrepreneurial spirit that you reference. I feel like that's what that is.
I think when you're transitioning into new roles, I like what Derek said and you said. You really don't plan for it, but before right before you do, that's when you have to plan for it. And I love that you have other entrepreneur friends that are your support to say, not to say this is how to do it, but here's what I went through, or here's what to expect.
Right.
Because as a business owner, the last thing you need is for somebody to tell you how to run your business.
Right. Yeah.
Like, fuck off.
Yeah. It doesn't really fare well.
Right.
But you can just ask my last three bosses.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to claim me as their subordinate. So, I guess that all didn't work out.
That's a sign that you need to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah. But so next week we're going to be off, and we're going to be doing a rerun
because it's the holiday weekend.
Yeah, Memorial Day weekend. Mm-hmm. So we anticipate people kind of traveling and shifting around and all that, and then we'll be back. Joe and I will be back together for the June 2nd show, and then Joe will be flying solo after that.
There you go. All right, listen, for all of us here at 21.6 Net, thanks for getting caught in the net with us here in the know with Steph and Joe every Friday at 3 Central. And tonight, a big new episode of Dream Home Experts. They've rearranged the studio. They've got their cameras right. They got their mics right. The place looks great. Tune in. It's going to be a great show with a home inspector with some great tips. So for all of us here at 21.6 Net, thanks for hanging out.